Alright, let's talk about access ports. Now, access port is a Cisco switch port type, and it's assigned to only one VLAN. Now, there should be no 802.1q tags on transmitted or received packets. Now, if you're familiar with a concept or remember from previous lessons, I'll show you the 802.1q tag again. I'll go back a couple of slides right here. So the 802.1q VLAN tag is this new field or a bunch of fields added into the basic Ethernet frame format. Now, in terms of access ports, this VLAN tag should not exist there. So this entire thing should not be there. So that means these fields would be gone as well. So remember that when we talk about access ports. Let's get rid of this and then go back to our slide. Now, ports are assigned to VLAN 1 by default. As has also been mentioned in previous lessons, VLAN 1 is the default VLAN for Cisco switches. The ports can also be assigned to other VLANs as shown in the configuration box below in the slide. So the command to assign the VLAN is switchport access VLAN and then the VLAN ID. And to actually turn the port into access mode, to hard code it in access mode, the command is switchport mode access. As you'll find out in future lessons, there are other modes available, but this lesson focuses on access ports. Now, as presented here, there are actually two different ways to assign the VLAN. So you can specify the VLAN ID or you can use the name of the VLAN if available. I'll show you the basic configuration and then I might try a couple of things that just occurred to me on the fly. But we'll get back to that. Stay tuned. So now let's go to our topology here on EVNG. So right now everything is in VLAN 1 as is by default. Let's actually configure IP addresses on the PCs. I don't think there are any at the moment. No, there isn't. So let's just assign a random IP subnet. So 192.168.1.11 for PC1, for example. Let's use just a normal 24 mask. Okay, that should be good. And then let's put this PC in the same IP subnet. So 192.168.1.12, for example. And notice I haven't configured any default gateway on either PC. It doesn't matter in this scenario. Show IP. Okay. So they should be able to ping each other right now. Let's test that. And it works. Okay, great. So now we can go on the switch and perform some verification commands. So here, let's see on switch 1. Actually, if we look at the topology again, the pieces are connected to switch 2 and switch 3. So we'll jump on switch 2 instead. Enable mode. Now there are a couple of ways that we can verify what VLAN is assigned to the port currently. A familiar command that we can use is the show VLAN command, which was presented in the last lesson as well. So let's do that. Show VLAN. And actually, let's double check the port. I didn't look what port they're connected to. Looks like gig 0/2 on both switches. So let's see over here. Yes, you can see all ports on the switch are in VLAN 1 currently. Now we can use a more specific command. We can do show interface gig0/2 switchport. This is a very useful command. I personally love this command. It provides a lot of information. There's actually more command output available here. Now the lines that we are most interested in right now, access mode VLAN is VLAN 1 as expected, and operational mode, static access. We can talk about the different modes in more detail in another video, but just so we know that this port is operating in access mode at the moment. We can actually check from the running configuration what is under this port at the moment. Show run interface gig0/2. So you can see that the port has actually not been statically configured as an access port. So if I go back to the previous output, pay attention to these two lines actually. The administrative mode and the operational mode. I didn't want to talk about this yet, but I'll explain this quickly because it is pretty important for our discussion. So the administrative mode is what is actually configured on the port, and the operational mode is the mode that the port is operating in. So just pay attention here and keep the command output in mind even if you don't fully understand it right now. Okay, so one final command that we can do is show interface status. Now here we can also see the VLAN assigned to this port is VLAN 1. Alright, let's check the VLAN database again because I don't think we have VLAN 42 here yet. No, it was created on switch 1 in the other lesson. So let's add that first and give it the name universe. VLAN 42 and then name universe. Like so. Now we can exit out of this mode. And then let's go under the interface configuration. So now let's put the port in access mode. So that was switch port mode. Let me actually show you the options here quickly. So you see there are a few options available. We don't need to look into it further right now, but just so you are aware. And we'll do access. And then let's assign the VLAN ID. So switch port. And actually my memory fails me. Switch port access VLAN and 42. Like so. The help menu is awesome. Like just now, I didn't remember the syntax for a basic command, but with the use of the question mark, I could easily figure it out. So now let's look at the switch port command again. So show interface gig0/2 and switch port. Oh, let's show the full output again. So now pay attention here. So the operational mode is still static access as before, but the administrative mode has changed now. And also here, the VLAN ID is 42 now. This port is associated with VLAN 42. And actually, I'll also show you the show VLAN output now. So you see this gig0/2 has now been moved to VLAN 42. So now in the last lesson, I talked about the use of VLANs and the logical segmentation. We can actually demonstrate that now in our little topology. So if I go back to the diagram. So previously both PC1 and PC2 were in VLAN 1. But now we have changed PC1 to belong to VLAN 42. So as was stated in the previous lesson, communication is not possible between different VLANs at layer 2. So we can test that. let's run the ping command again over here on PC1. And you see it's not working anymore. Host 192.168.1.12 is not reachable. Now to fix this, we could move PC1 back to VLAN 1, or we can put PC2 in VLAN 42. Let's actually do the latter, and I'll do a little experiment that I thought of. I mentioned it previously. So let's go on switch 3. I'll go through this quickly because I'll be using familiar commands. So first, we need to create the VLAN. And this time, I'm not going to give it a name. So what I want to do is, let's see here, show VLAN. So we have it right now listed here on the second line below VLAN 1. And the name is default for VLAN 1. And this is what I want to try. This is technically the name for this VLAN right now. So I want to try if we can assign the port to this VLAN by using this name. Let's test that. So it was the same interface, gig 0/2. And then switchport mode access. And switchport access VLAN and now let's put the name. And I suppose it does not work that way. Okay, let me try it another way. Then let's go back. So VLAN 42, and then let's name it as we did before. Then back to the interface configuration. And then universe. Let's see if this works. Okay, it looks like this version of iOS may not support this method of assigning the VLANs. It could also be because this is iOS V and I'm running a virtual lab. That means some of the features might not be available or they might not work as expected. So it seems that we are not able to assign the VLAN as shown in the example. So because we can't get it to work, let's just use the VLAN number here. So let's just put 42 here. Okay, and then let's check with the show VLAN command again. And now the port has been correctly assigned. And now if I go back to the PC, the ping should work again. Actually, there may be a short delay. Oh, no, actually. You know what is happening here. Let me go back to the topology. I believe this comes down to spanning tree. This is beyond the scope of this lesson, but in short, the pieces are not actually communicating over the directly connected link between switch 2 and switch 3. The frames are traversing over switch 1 and VLAN 42 is not enabled there, or it's not enabled on those interconnected links. So this is why the communication is failing and not because of the VLAN assignment. But we can leave it at that, and you can try to resolve this on your own, or we can come back to it later. Right now, let me jump back to the slideshow. In summary, the main takeaways from this lesson are: only one VLAN can be assigned to an access port. And simply put, think of no 802.1q VLAN tags on transmitted or received packets on access ports. The two commands to remember are switchport mode access, which sets the port in access mode, and switchport access VLAN with the VLAN ID that specifies which VLAN the port is associated with.